Good morning, everybody. Welcome and thanks for joining for this morning's webinar, all about talent management for the 21st century. As always, I'm just going to kind of flag up and apologise a little bit as new people join in. I might get a little bit distracted as I've got to click the right buttons to let them into the webinar. So my webinar skills are improving, but every now and again I might be a little bit distracted. So thanks for joining us this morning. Just a couple of things to start off with. I'm recording this webinar so I can make the recording available to anybody else that wants to do so. And I'll send the recording of this webinar and the slides out to everyone who's registered for today's webinar also. As always, I really like to hear from you. Now, I admit we're a small group this morning, but please don't let that put you off. Please use the chat function as we go along. Ask any questions, offer your opinions. You know, if you would disagree with what I'm saying or have an alternative perspective, please do so. Don't hold back and be too polite. Every now and again, I'll just kind of stop and check the chat box so we can share thoughts and views and perspectives. So I think that's probably a good place to start. Can I ask you to use the chat function? Just tell us your name and what's your interest in this topic in particular. And once you're doing that, I will do kind of the same from my perspective. So you get typing away and I'll carry on and tell you a little bit more about me and Blue Grape. Now, that's a photograph of me there in the middle. Now, I'll be honest, this morning, I've not long come back from the gym, so I don't look anywhere near as good as that. My hair is still scraped back and I had a really good workout this morning, so I'm feeling particularly tired. But that's me. I am Rhiannon Stafford, and I am the director and founder of Blue Grape Talent. And if I'm honest, after about 20 odd years working in HR and leadership development, I got a bit frustrated about how organisations kind of did people management. I'd had some amazing experiences at work, times when I was really trusted, empowered, and I did a fantastic job. And I felt really awesome, but I also experienced the opposite as well. I've been micromanaged, told I wasn't good enough and I didn't fit in. And generally at that time, I delivered quite a poor job as well. So there came a point where I thought, come on, I know there's a better way of doing things. And that's when I took the plunge and started Blue Grape and kind of got on my mission to show how I think harnessing the power of your people can really make your business and your organisation grow as well. So we're very much a people development business. We're very much about human relationships. I do like to think we're innovative, bringing fresh ideas, but in essence, what we can help you do as an organisation, retain your talent, increase engagement, raise your service standards, and basically outperform your competitors. How do we do that? Very briefly, there are four main service streams to my business. If we look at top left-hand corner, assessment and stretch, that's kind of my way of saying, we help you know more about your people, help you match them to jobs that they're most likely to excel in and feel really engaged. And then if you look at managing change, well, I just don't think we should look at change management as an event anymore. Change is just about the way that we need to do things around it. So we help our clients kind of develop skills and cultures that embrace change as the way we do things on a day-to-day basis. I'm really on a mission to have organisations see the value of coaching and bring it out of this exclusive space that it used to be in, executive coaching, leadership coaching. Coaching is such a powerful learning tool, and what I'm about is trying to bring coaching not just for executives and leaders, but helping everybody grow as well. And leadership and talent, well, we're all about building great leaders, but I think that's a critical part of an organisation's success. And as is making sure you've got kind of the next generation of leaders coming through. So we can do that. We help you develop confident, capable and inspiring leaders who make amazing employee experiences. Because really that's what's at the heart of our business, is the employee experience. We genuinely feel there's this direct relationship between how your employees experience your business and how your customers experience your business. And that's why we think, you know, the employee experience really makes a difference. So I'll just stop for a minute and have a little look at, oh, lovely. We've got some people popped in the chat bottom. Thank you. So who have we got? Now at the moment, I've just got M Salk. Hello, everybody, and glad to be here. What's your first name? Oh, Maria, I could just see further on down. And you've just joined Dunelm, Maria. Oh, and you're leading capability, and part that's to review how we look at performance and talent. Oh, lovely. Just up my street. And Joanne, I think we've come across each other before. Oh, rainy and snowy Glasgow, but lovely to see you and hear from you again, Joanne. Ah, Louise, we have come across each other before. Oh, 9-box grid experience. Yeah, you'll find out my thoughts on 9-box in a minute. Gemma, you're working on a new succession planning process at work. Oh yeah, a fellow HR ninja. I love that. Great, thank you. Lovely to hear from you all. Now look, please continue to be brave like that and use the chat box as we go along. I do feel I will give you all something to take away. I try to make these things very practical and pragmatic. We will be a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so I love talking, as you might or might not know. I'd be more than happy to chat with anybody later on if you want to dive into some more detail about any particular topic. But before you let me loose and diving into detail, I'm just going to start, I'm kind of pull out a little bit. Before we get into the detail of talent management, I think it's important that we kind of just remind ourselves of the environment that organisations are operating at the moment. Because after all, whatever we do as HR professionals, it needs to be relevant to our environment. So I looked at a couple of recent reports that were published this year, basically, where CEOs were asked about their views on the risks, opportunities, and issues they and their organisations are facing now and in the future. So let's just flick on to that. It's a global survey, and this is what was highlighted as the key external hot button issues. So what are the things outside of the organisation issues and thoughts for our CEOs at the moment? So the top issues cited by those CEOs. Well, for the second consecutive year, apparently, top external concern for CEOs globally, and also for CFOs, is recession risk. Now, I have to be honest, that was a little bit of new to me. I hadn't thought of that, bit of a surprise. Our businesses are still concerned about potentially the global recessions or recessions in our individual countries. But what was most interesting is apparently 2 years ago, recession risk was barely there. It was down at number 19 on the list of 28 items. So what surprises me is how quickly that has shot up. So I'm kind of thinking, how much has our business world changed quite rapidly? And then you can see from there the individual kind of call out buttons. There's still a lot of uncertainty around trade, competition, political instability, labour markets. Do you know what I got from this was, it's safe to say we are still in that VUCA world, aren't we? Of volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So that was the key thing that kind of I took away. We're not in a stable world. I don't think we've really been in a stable world for a while now. But look, as I go through this, please feel free and brave. Comment on the next couple of slides. There's a few of them are statistics. How does this materialise in your organisation? Does this ring true for you as well? But if those are the external hot button topics, what are our CEOs thinking about from an internal business perspective? Now, look at that. Almost across the globe, there's concerns about talent and skills shortages. We've got technologies, disruptive technology, but then we go back into culture, nurturing talent. These are the top stress points for our CEOs for the coming year and into the future. Occasionally when we look at next generation leaders popping up, controlling costs, but you know what was a bit of a, oh wow moment for me? Everybody's concerned in one way or the other about people, talent, and culture. So being in this VUCA uncertain world that we're in, what are the things that are top on our CEOs' worry lists, I suppose? It's all about people. So if talent management wasn't important before, well, it definitely is now, and it's on the minds of our bosses. So now is the right time for us to be thinking about this. So hopefully I've kind of set the scene of how important talent management is for us at the moment in HR, but also how much the environment has changed and probably will continue to change. But I've mentioned talent management, haven't I? And maybe it's just worthwhile, before we dive into any more detail, let's just be clear on what do I mean by talent management. Now, I'm not going to offer you a definition. There are many definitions to choose from. But in my simple little mind, and if you know me, I like to keep things simple, this is the kind of thing that I mean about talent management. It's deliberately not a definition. But for me, it's about attracting, identifying, developing, engaging, retaining, and deploying people and talent. And I think another reason I haven't chosen a definition is sometimes a definition can sometimes restrict our thinking about a subject right from the outset. And that's another reason why I'm kind of offering this loose description of activities. Because one of the things we need to realise is that our traditional thinking about talent and other things isn't always relevant in this new kind of a VUCA world. So let's be open to maybe a more looser approach to many things. How have we traditionally done talent management then? Well, to answer this, I can only, I suppose, really draw on my personal experience. And the next slide is that. So please do comment on, is this how you've experienced talent management, or is this how you experience it now? If you agree, let me know. But if you have an alternative view or experience, please also let me know. So if this is what we mean by talent, how have we traditionally done things? Well, yeah, this is my personal experience. How have we traditionally done talent management? Well, we've ranked people really through appraisal systems. We've developed high potentials with programs. The loosest kind of sense. We've put high potential people through a program to develop them. We've created career paths, ladders, trajectories. I had a job once that was just about developing a career framework for mid-careers in a massive engineering organisation. That was just my job. They just wanted career paths and ladders. We've done engagement, but engagement has kind of revolved around, or has seemingly ended up revolving around a survey. We've planned successes for specific roles, and we've assessed competencies using a matrix or a grid. And I think, Louise, you mentioned about a 9-box talent grid a bit earlier on. Now, please tell me, am I being fair, or do you think I'm being a little bit narrow-minded around how we've traditionally done talent? Is this your experience as well? Because these are mine. But there came a point when I started to think, actually, for example, how many of my successors actually moved into those jobs? And how many managers have openly welcomed the competency frameworks that we've developed for them? Started to get kind of messages coming back. Maria, it sounds all familiar. Lovely. Gemma, your experience too. And Joanne, yep, that sounds familiar. Although, oh, Gemma, let's pop through it. My organisation doesn't officially do any succession planning or talent management. Oh, I wonder if they don't. What do you mean by doesn't officially? Are they doing some of these activities, but is it kind of hidden, or have you got to elbow it through to make people do it? But on face of it, I'm glad. What people are saying is, yeah, this seems to be my experience as well. But I suppose my experience doesn't mean anything compared to what the reality is. Now, tell me again if I'm being unfair, but to be frank, this became my reality of the traditional way of doing talent management. Succession planning didn't really actually work because, do you know what? Nobody actually moved into the roles that we said we wanted them to move into. They either left or they changed their mind. So my succession planning, I looked at the people that we had on the list and who actually were promoted. No, it wasn't very good. Engagement, I feel quite strongly, has become the survey. When I've talked to people about engagement, yeah, we do a survey. We've got really great response rates, and we're increasing our engagement levels by so many percentage each year. So suddenly engagement has stopped being engagement and has become a survey. I don't know really of many people who actually liked the 9-box grid. Now that in itself is not a reason to not do it, but I did find that most of my time and energy was taken up trying to persuade people why they should do the 9-box grid and what it actually meant and what were the rules, I suppose. I really experienced that not all those people that were identified as being high potential were really high potential. When I got to know managers and like talk to them about their high potentials, they pop people in there because they're really good, and I can't reward them in any way. He's been here 10 years. I can't lose him. I need to make him feel valued. So actually, we were using the high potential pool in some areas, not as high potentials, but as a way to reward and almost recognize people we wanted to keep. And this hypo program didn't actually always help hypos succeed. You know, maybe it's because they weren't actually hypos in the first place, but a program was very expensive, very costly, and it didn't make a huge amount of difference. And I think we could all agree on that one, that in appraisal conversations, no one was ever really engaged or motivated or enthused by it. So all of these things that I suppose you could say I learned at HR school, that this is the way to do talent management, didn't really actually work. And kind of what I realise now is that the world moves too quickly, I think, for our traditional tools to cope with anymore. We've just seen that in some of the views from the CEO. But do you know what? I think it's not just me that thinks that as well. Just a couple of other pieces of info from a different research topic here. What do CEOs think of talent management and talent in general? It's good to see here in this survey, 93% of CEOs said that they recognise the need to change their strategy for attracting and retaining. So change their talent management approach. That's brilliant. They realise they need to do something different. But only 32%, about a third, have actually started, let alone completed anything. But 63% of CEOs said that availability of skills was a serious concern. So it's there on their minds. They want to do something different. They kind of agree with us that what has happened traditionally isn't helpful, but they haven't actually started to do anything. But this was the most depressing stat for me from the same survey. Only about a third of CEOs felt that HR was well prepared to make these changes, was well prepared to change the strategy for attracting and retaining talent. We don't have the confidence of our business leaders that we're going to be able to respond to this. Now, initially, I got quite defensive. We are good. We know what we're doing. But it's clear that our CEOs don't have that confidence in us yet. So I think it's up to us to prove them wrong. And do you know what? I think the first place for us to start in that proving them wrong is looking at changing mindsets. And here's my suggestion. What if we thought differently about talent? And now, this isn't what do we do? This is let's start to challenge some of our assumptions and beliefs and maybe replace them with some new assumptions and beliefs. So for the 21st century, I think talent needs to be inclusive and not exclusive. And by that, I mean, why are we restricting our talent pool to only a handful of these so-called hypos? You know, talent isn't only the ability to operate at a high level. High potential, traditionally in organisations, are those people who we are able to promote to senior positions. That isn't what talent's about, surely. What if you think about the majority of your core and critical roles? I'm just thinking, making a bit of an assumption here for our colleague from Dunelm. Probably some of your core or critical roles could be your store managers, who aren't necessarily very senior in the organisation, but they're absolutely critical to your organisation's success. So why don't we start thinking about talent in its broader sense and get to know all of our talent? Talent, that's our people. We already know it's hard, though, to get to know people in our organisation. But why don't we try to switch what we do and focus more attention to knowing your existing talent? When I say talent, I mean people, and trying to retain them. You've got talent across your organisation. So, busting a myth. Talent should be inclusive, not exclusive. Potential and performance is contextual. I feel really strongly about this. They are not fixed. And I believe we can't measure them by a competency framework. They depend on the situation. and I use myself as an example here. In some roles that I did, I was a really great high performer. I remember being in that top category. Did some awesome work, but in other roles, I was okay. I was good. And I was in that kind of middle of the road, yeah, good performer, solid performer. And then in a few roles, I was pretty useless. Now, I haven't changed as a person, but the environment and the job that I'm in is what is different. So I do think we need to view potential and performance as contextual and get away from one standard view and definition of what is high performance and high potential, because we could potentially writing people off here. Soft skills, absolutely. Despite all this development of AI, digitalization, automation, it's the jobs that will survive in the future are those jobs that need inherently human skills or soft skills. You know, things like creativity, communication, collaboration. You've only got to look at the work that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, is doing that highlights the need for these soft skills in the future. Engagement, I really do think engagement is a two-way thing. The employer does need to create the environment and opportunities, but also as an employee, you've got to be prepared to grasp those opportunities. So an example, you know, a lot of people in our engagement service might say, well, we want more development. We're not getting enough development. But, you know, to really benefit and to feel engaged from those development opportunities, I'm sorry, you've got to rock up with your enthusiasm. You've got to be open for self-improvement. Otherwise, no one is going to feel engaged. So I do feel we need to shift our assumption that engagement is something that the organisation must do to the employee. It's a two-way thing. It's like a marriage, isn't it? There's two people in that relationship. I do think we need to start by knowing more about our talent, our people, not the job. When I remember succession planning, we spent ages thinking about the jobs that we wanted to succession plan for, what were the jobs, what were their challenges. But we found the getting to know people the more difficult part. Because if you've got, even if I just looked at my pool of high potentials in my last employed job, rightly or wrongly, in this global organisation with several hundred high potentials. How am I going to get to know all of it? That was difficult, but I think we have to find a way, know more about our talent, because the bits that we don't know about in the future are the jobs. We don't know what jobs are going to be needed in the future. Half of them haven't been created. But the more we know about our people, when these jobs arise, we can make better decisions about who's best suited. So start knowing your talent, not the job. And analytics do still matter, absolutely. But it's the right sort of numbers and analytics, not the superficial kind. We really need to tell the business where the skills lie and where in the business those skills are and why those skills are necessary, real analytics. But the big thing for me is let's make this human-centric. People are people. They are not robots. They are not automation. We need to think of a way to do talent that recognizes, allows and embraces the humanness in us. Oh, crikey, there's a lot I've just spurred out there. These are the assumptions that I think we need to kind of adopt more of, because if we don't shift our assumptions, some of the tools I'm going to take you on to suggest in the next minute or so are going to feel alien. Now, I've just seen I've got a comment in the box. Let me just go back to the chat box. Oh, Maria, I love it. Inclusion versus exclusion. Now, maybe this is, we share a similar background. My first part of my HR career was in retail, Maria. So I can remember, and I worked in stores, and I can remember actually feeling quite excluded because we were just at the store level. So we weren't at head office, and the store level roles weren't senior enough to be kind of included in succession planning and a lot of the talent and a lot of the leadership development. But when you think about it in retail, who are the most important people? They are the people in your stores. And we would have to work really hard to find great talent for new store openings because it was left to us as individual regions. We didn't have any kind of support from our head office at all. So good. I'm glad I've ticked someone's box. Inclusive, not exclusive. Right. Again, please keep popping your thoughts. If you agree or disagree with me or Maria, please do let me know. But these are some assumptions. Right. And I do think we need to start shifting assumptions, because the next couple of things I'm going to show you are my suggested tools. So these are some takeaways from the call today that I think if you start thinking about these and putting some of these in place, that for me is talent management for the 21st century. But I think we might need to shift some assumptions along the way also. So what's my talent tool number one? I suppose I've started with one that I think most of you are going to be fairly open to. Oh, and then on each of these slides, I kind of cross through the tool I think we should do away with, because I don't think we need to introduce new tools. I think we need to replace, to be quite honest. So continuous coaching, that's probably one that's been around for a while now. Rather than an annual appraisal process, it just doesn't add any value. If we have continuous coaching and feedback conversations, that really does improve current performance, because we're looking at what do we need to do differently going forward. We're talking in the moment on a regular basis, not leaving till the end of the year. That does make people far more responsive to change, because you are addressing some of the issues or successes that are coming up in the moment. And that's a far better way to embed learning and behavioural change. And I suppose that kind of links to the next talent tool I'm going to look at. But yes, I am saying here, if you haven't yet dumped or modified significantly your annual appraisal process, tool number one, continuous coaching, keeping pace with the nature of the business and how it changes. Tool number two, this might seem strange given that a bulk of my work at the moment is designing and delivering programs. I don't think it's sustainable. Now, I don't think we should stop immediately these training workshops, but let's think about it. The reason we do, in inverted commas, training is to help people learn new skills and behaviours, but ultimately to change behaviour. And going on a workshop and being immersed for a day in new information doesn't actually mean we're going to learn something and develop our confidence to change our behaviour. In fact, unless learning is reinforced, we do forget it. That's that use it or lose it. And traditionally, it's simple, isn't it? We say, go on that workshop and then we've trained you and then you've got new information. But we don't do enough for when people come back into the workplace and try to put that into practice. So using it or losing it, that's the concept of learning. I love the idea of learning in the flow of work. Now, again, this might relate back to my original retail days, but it's been applicable in every other role I've done going forward. Having time out to go on a training course is very difficult. People can't take days, and often it involves traveling, so it's a day and a bit. It's not conducive. It's really disruptive to our work. It doesn't help us have the information and the confidence available to us real time to apply what we've learned. So the idea of learning in the flow of work, using digital tools to bring learning, micro learning, short, sharp learning to people when they need it. Spaced repetition is this idea of drip feeding information over a shorter period of time, which could be as simple as 1 month we focus on how do we have difficult conversations. And each week somebody has an article, a webinar, a video to watch. It takes 5 minutes of their day. But the concept of spaced repetition is that we remind them short, sharp bursts of information that they can then apply in real time. Minimal disruption to work, far more cost effective. It kind of moves the focus away from have you learnt the information, i.e. in a workshop, and how do you rate it? That's traditionally what we've done. And moves it to what is your job and how will this information help you perform more effectively in the flow of work? And there's so many digital tools out there that enable this far better than workshops. I'm at the risk now of losing a massive proportion of my business. Ooh. So learning in the flow of work, tool number two, rather than a learning curriculum that is workshop based. Tool number 3 is this idea of this internal talent marketplace or internal recruiting. And for me, that is instead of these high potential pools and all of these programs, everybody is talent. And we can only buy into that if we shift our assumption of what talent is. And talent, I feel, shouldn't just be about the ability to progress to a higher grade job. Talent is about the ability to add value and do an amazing job for you. But how do we really know the talent that we've already got? Probably not, but hang on a minute and I'll share you my thoughts on that a little bit later on. But it's really hard to hire people externally at the moment, isn't it? Talent scarcity, we've got this war for talent. But why are we not thinking more about the talent that we've got internally? Because we know it's hard to find people externally. And LinkedIn has done quite a bit of really helpful research on this. And part of their recent research was they found that 73% of the talent professionals said that internal recruiting is increasingly more important to their company. But we can't just look at internal recruiting as we'll advertise a job and hope someone will apply for it. That's not quite what I mean by this internal talent marketplace. I feel we need to get to know our talent far better so it can start to be a two-way discussion around what the individuals want and what we know is up and coming. And that's a great stat there about employees staying longer at organisations with high internal hiring. Again, the same piece of research by LinkedIn, talking to a load of talent professionals, they agreed that internal recruiting gives the following benefits. Improves retention, 81% of people agree to that. Accelerates new hire productivity, 69%, because your new hires are coming internally, and accelerates the hiring process, 63% agree to that. So because you're hiring internally, it's quicker, it's cheaper, it's quicker. It just drives the right message for our organisation. I do admit, though, in the same piece of research, the number one barrier that they highlighted was that managers who didn't want to let go of good talent. So internal talent marketplace isn't just as simple as taking what we do externally recruiting and bringing it in-house. And there does need to be work around changing culture and our view of talent and an internal talent marketplace as well. But if you're not yet looking at this tool, that needs to be one to make you a little bit more 21st century. Next tool is career paths and ladders. I think I mentioned earlier on, I had a job once that was just to develop a career framework for mid-career individuals. But let's face it, the days of a steady, stable career are over, aren't they? Organisations are flatter. We don't have ladder careers. There's more lattice careers. Upward progression is less common. And actually, as well, the rapid pace of technology and change makes a lot of jobs or crafts or skills go out of date after only a few years. And to the extent that I read some research recently that only 9% of companies have traditional career models. What is replacing this concept more? I don't know if this is a concept, but I love this kind of timeline that I've put on this slide here. And this is the reality. Well, I think this has been my reality. It's definitely going to be my daughter's reality. If you think about the 3 stages of life, the first bit, learning, school, university, some kind of formal learning. The big blue bit in the middle there, the work. But work is going to be characterized by doing work, learning something new, changing your work, working, learning, change, working. And we're going to work far longer into our lives and have a kind of a far shorter retirement. That's quite depressing when you look at that, because that is 100, as in age 100 there at the bottom. But this is the reality. We know how things are changing so quickly that what's the value anymore of career paths and ladders? I don't think there are any. There's far more value of having regular career conversations with our people to understand what they want and to help them better understand what could be up and coming. So if you don't yet have a way of having career conversations with your people, this is definitely one to put in. And then our final tool, here we go, my hot topic, 9-box grids and competency frameworks. We've had those mentioned a few times before. And this is my view. I don't think we can define what a perfect leader looks like. That concept in itself is flawed. We can define what we feel a perfect leader looks like, but we will never achieve it. Human beings have strengths and we have things that we're not good at. Human beings are just, well, we're human beings. We are not a robot, and we cannot change ourselves to be this perfect model. So let's just stop kidding ourselves about that. How disengaging is it for someone to see this competency framework and think, well, I don't do that, I don't do that, and I don't do that, because it doesn't come to them naturally. But that doesn't mean that they're not talented, that they can't do a great job for you somewhere. And when we think about the 9-box grid, it's pretty much the same thing. It's full of rater bias. Why? Because it's based on that flawed concept of a competency framework, potentially. But if we don't have a competency framework and we're just asking managers to plot people where they feel they should be, we're humans, we're full of natural psychological biases, aren't we? So we misinterpret behavior and we apply our own kind of subjective gut feeling. Rater bias, how has it really helped us? So I think there's something different. Rather than looking at competency frameworks or 9-box grids that just rely on us observing and drawing conclusions about actions, I think we need to understand what underpins behavior, the factors that drive behavior, as well as the natural kind of observable actions of an individual. We are, as human beings, we're remarkable. We will adapt ourselves and our behavior to which environment we find ourselves in. So if we are only drawing judgments based on someone's actions, we're really misunderstanding the behaviors. And we need to get to the bottom of that behavior, because that stops us pigeonholing people into either personality types or performance levels or potential levels. But it's the insights into that hidden drivers beneath the behavioral tendencies that are really important. Because if we understand that, we can then work with the individual to find the role and the environment that they are going to best thrive in, because we understand the behaviors. We're not just looking at the competencies on the outset. And if we can align people to roles and environments that match their natural tendencies and behaviors and preferences, that's when we're going to get amazing performance. And that is why I believe everybody is talented. It's as long as we find the right job for them. And there's some really great tools out there designed to do that. Behavioral assessment rather than competency assessment. And yes, I will be honest, that's what we use at Blue Grape. We use behavioral assessment rather than competency assessment, because we see the value in understanding people's behavior, not just their actions. And, you know, I keep saying, if we help people understand themselves better, they're more likely to be self-aware, manage their impact on other people. Doesn't emotional intelligence kind of spring to mind? And we know that that's one of the core critical behaviors, abilities that we need in the future. So those are my 5 talent tools. I've just seen something pop into the chat box. So Maria, I've really got you going, haven't I, this morning? So, yeah, Marie said you love the inclusive versus exclusive. All the original assumptions and beliefs at play right now. Yeah, but a real desire to look at how we can involve what we do. So not involve, evolve what we do. Absolutely, because don't get me wrong, I was there. I was one of those talent professionals that had those assumptions and beliefs, and I use these tools. And I would wax lyrical about them. This is the best thing we should do. But it hasn't given us the result. Well, it won't give us the results we need now. Maybe in the future, in the past it gave us results, but now where we are in this world, it's just outdated. It's just not there anymore. And it's great. But do you know what? I feel a bit embarrassed, because personally, I can say this, I think my business leaders saw that and felt that, and I didn't. And I saw that and interpreted that as, they don't want to play by the rules. They don't want to follow these processes. No, they were the ones in reality that weren't experiencing the benefit. So yeah, I've had a bit of an epiphany moment, I would say, maybe, and that to shift, to introduce and to do things differently has really meant for me a shift in some of my assumptions. But I feel it's a positive shift. Now, Maria, you also say that you're exploring something, not quite sure what. Pop in there and let us know what you're exploring. Louise, what particular behavioural assessment tools do we use at Blue Grape? Well, at Blue Grape, we use something called Harrison assessments. And that is a fantastic behavioural assessment index. So it helps you understand quite literally people's natural tendencies, their aspirations, the type of working environment that they're going to be best at. And it is based on assumption that there is no perfect. We need to better understand people and match them to jobs that is their individual perfect. And that's why I kind of earlier on talked about being human-centric. Working with people and their interests and their assumptions and their desires, that's about allowing them to be human rather than pigeonholing them into a competency assessment. So I do rave about Harrison, and I'd happily talk to anybody about how you could use Harrison in your organisation as well. Maria, you said that as well. How does this work for the masses? It absolutely can. It's again something that's behavioural. Well, I maybe have to do a session on Harrison and how I use it for small clients with anything from kind of, I've got a nice little accountancy firm here locally. They've got 14 people. We use Harrison to help them understand, well, to help them hire people and then help them understand what roles are they best suited to. And I've got another client I started to talk to about using Harrison to help them with large graduate recruitment intake programs. So knowing what are the graduates who are best suited to their organisation and then steering them down the career path that's most applicable for their wants and their needs. Another client who's about to go through a big organisational restructure that will involve pretty much most of the people in their business going into a new role. I'm going to use Harrison with them to help them identify those people that are best suited to the new jobs that are being created. So it can work for small or it can work with a vast number of people as well. And learning in the flow of work, absolutely. Yeah, I get that one too. Again, maybe this is our retail background when you've got hundreds of people across the country in small or smallish unit stores. You can't run training courses and take everybody out of their jobs for a day or so. It just doesn't happen. And particularly I'm going to say Generation Z, my daughter's generation, everything is on the phone. They don't want to sit in a classroom and be taught. They want to find things out for themselves. They can access anything. So yeah, we've just got to move with the times. Sorry, I'm getting all excited again here with this. So I think if we do shift our assumptions, because remember the CEO's view is HR is not very well prepared to capitalize on these trends. And what was the CEO's internal hot topic? Talent, skills, and shortages. So I think if we are, big enough, mature enough, confident enough to challenge some of our own long-held assumptions about talent, we can respond really well to this situation. But I do think some of this assumption shifting here is needed within our HR population, but also as well for some of our operations managers also to help shift their assumption. Because if we just started to go in and talk about some of those tools, one of those 5 tools, without this context, it's going to be a little bit alien. Now, I know this has been a real whistle-stop tour, and I've covered quite a lot here in a lot of high detail. But I hope it's given you enough to get a feel of what I think talent management for the 21st century is about. And I hope it's given you something that sparked we could go away and start to think about that now. But do you know what? I would love to talk to you about anything in particular about today's webinar. You might not have gathered yet, but I do like to chat and I feel really enthusiastic about this subject. I'd love you to reach out. Don't try to change everything overnight, I would say, because that just won't happen. maybe you just need to pick up on one or two, probably one thing, and think, well, how can I start to implement this? How can I put that into my talent journey? And I'd love to support you along the way in this journey if you would like to as well. So say kind of yes, please, in the comments box. If you want to have a chat, drop me a line, give me a call. I'm really open to having a conversation and hopefully kind of sharing this enthusiasm I've got for bringing talent management into the 21st century and making it more human-centered, but actually making a difference for our organisation. I'm just going to have one last little check of the chat box. So we got some some thank yous. That would be great. So I'll say thank you to you as well. Thank you for listening. As I said, I'm going to record this, send this back out to you so you can have the slides and all of the recordings. And if in the future it kind of prompts say, let's have a chat about this, please reach out. Otherwise, thanks ever so much for your time this morning. It's been lovely. You've been a small group, but you've been really interactive and I've really enjoyed that. Have a great day and hopefully we'll speak soon. Bye now.